very good evening to you and a warm welcome to our program Diplomatic Faces. And on Diplomatic Faces, we usually exchange thoughts and ideas on the importance of geopolitics and also what the world leaders have done for the betterment of the communities. So today on Diplomatic Faces, we're privileged to have the Russian ambassador to Sri Lanka, His Excellency Levan Zhagarian. A very warm welcome to the program and a very good evening.
Thank you very much. You are welcome as well at the Embassy of the Russian Federation.
Thank you so much. It's a beautiful place.
Thank you.
Your Excellency, having graduated from the Moscow State Institute of International Relations of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the USSR, you joined the diplomatic service back in 1986. So tell us, what motivated or inspired you to get into this field?
Yeah. You know, I was born in the Soviet Union. It was comprised of 15 republics. Now all of them are independent since 1992. And I was born in Georgia, Georgian Soviet Republic, but I'm ethnic Armenian and graduated from Russian school. So from my childhood, I used to speak 3 languages. And for me, it was very interesting to learn the history of other nations. History, geography, language, and so on. Once again, from my childhood, I was not only me. We used to speak 2 or 3 languages at least. And the history was one of my favorite subjects. That's why I decided to join Russian Foreign Ministry. It was at the time Soviet Foreign Ministry, and my first posting was the Soviet Embassy in the Democratic Republic of Afghanistan, because I learned Persian language at that time. So Persian language has become for me the 4th language.
That's interesting, and I think learning languages for some people is passion, and I think that has really worked for you.
Yeah, it's very important, especially English is a must for all diplomats, I think.
Exactly, and it's about communicating with the world, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
So let's talk about the diplomatic experience as well, Your Excellency. During your tenure as a diplomat, you have held various positions of responsibility. Being a diplomat itself is a whole responsibility. Could you please share some of the key roles or assignments you've undertaken throughout your career?
You know, when I was in Afghanistan at the end of 80s, the leadership of the former Soviet Union decided to withdraw Soviet troops from Afghanistan. We spent, former Soviet Union, just about a decade in Afghanistan. There was war, and I was participating as an interpreter, negotiations between a Russian military and Soviet military, and Soviet officials and UN officials about the conditions in terms of the withdrawal of Soviet troops from Afghanistan. We started in 1988 in May, and we completed the withdrawal of Soviet troops in 1999 in February. And we managed to save many lives of Soviet young people at that time, and I will never forget this period of my job. And also I spent, before coming here, 11 years as ambassador to Iran. It was a very difficult posting for me, and we have very good relations with Iran, and the most remarkable and most important period was the participation as an ambassador in a very long process of negotiations to reach the deal, Iran nuclear deal, which resulted on partially lifting sanctions against Iran. We participated with our former partners, I would say. They are our partners right now. I mean, United States, UK, France, Germany, and also with our very good friend, China. And it was a very good, very important deal. It was endorsed by the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2231. It opened a new page in the history because Iran is a very important country in the region. But then when Mr. Trump came to power, they decided, Americans, to quit this deal in 2018, and resulted in resumption of sanctions, and just once again we just saw that Americans don't respect international law in many cases, unfortunately. But this is one of the most important pages of my diplomatic experience.
Those are some of the highlights, I'd say, isn't it?
Yes.
And speaking of bilateral relations between Russia and Sri Lanka, we've shared a long-standing bilateral relationship between the two countries, and that encompasses a wide range of areas such as trade, we have defense, and also cultural exchanges. So, Your Excellency, can you tell us where do we stand now in terms of bilateral relationship?
We have established our bilateral relations, diplomatic relations in 1957. And since that, we had very good relations, very fruitful cooperation, former Soviet Union and Sri Lanka. And we continue our cooperation as much as possible. So we are a little bit limited right now for well-known reasons. But anyway, we try to keep on proper level. July 13 in Jakarta, two foreign ministers, Mr. Lavrov and Mr. Ali Sabri, met in the sidelines of international conferences in Indonesia. They discussed some issues regarding bilateral relations, and we are waiting for some proposals, some ideas to go ahead. Also, we highly appreciate Sri Lanka's foreign policy, your balanced policy, neutrality, which is very important for us. And Sri Lanka is in the list of friendly countries, which is very important, because there is a list from unfriendly countries and also friendly countries. And the majority of the world, as we call it, global south, is our friends, including Sri Lanka. And we are ready to continue our cooperation, especially in the humanitarian field.
Speaking of cooperation, and you did mention about some of the talks which are currently going on, and at the same time, you know, economic cooperation also plays a vital role in fostering strong bilateral relationship between the two countries. So in which areas do you see potential and for enhancing economic cooperation between Russia and Sri Lanka? What are the areas you think you see potential, and are there any specific sectors or projects that both countries are currently focusing on?
For example, we have contacts between Rosatom, Russian Atomic Organization, and their Lankan partners, colleagues, to develop some joint projects in Sri Lanka. Before, several times I just raised the issue of the possibility to set up a small nuclear power station. There are some ideas. We are ready to continue our discussions. Though there are some specialists who are against, and mainly the specialists are living outside Sri Lanka, looking from Western countries.
From a different perspective.
From negative prospects. Those who are in Western countries are from a negative prospects, of course. And we know who is behind. But anyway, we do believe that it's possible to implement some bilateral projects, and hopefully we will be witnessing some delegations coming from Russia, maybe in autumn, to continue this discussion. So far, we conducted this discussion in virtual mode. But it's very important to have face-to-face talks.
And speaking of cooperation, it's not just economic cooperation and bilateral relationship, but cultural cooperation and cultural exchanges also plays a vital role. Yes. So where do you think we can connect culturally, and also any projects you would like to have in Sri Lanka as well, in terms of building the cultural people-to-people cooperation within the both countries? First
of all, we have a cultural center here in Colombo, Russian Culture Center, which is very popular. And they are doing an excellent job. And we have some ballet school, we have chess club, and just in the morning, today in the morning, one of the ballet masters came to Colombo. She will conduct some master classes here. Yes. And we do believe that this cultural center will become more and more attractive. Also, I would like to mention that Russian language has become very popular in Sri Lanka. We have opened some courses for Sri Lankan friends to learn Russian language. Recently, it was in Galle. I think on the 1st of August, I will go to Gampaha to open Russian training courses, because it is just under the auspices of our Chuvash State University. Chuvash is one of the regions of the Russian Federation, and they have facilitated to this project. Also, recently I visited Trincomalee. I had just the honor to meet with governor of Eastern Province. We will be thinking about the possibility to do something in the Eastern Province. And once again, our exchange of students, but we know that many Sri Lankan students are learning in different universities, institutes in the Russian Federation, and we decided to increase the number of scholarships for Sri Lankan students. Before it was 40, now it's more than 50, maybe 52. And once again, my message is please use the possibilities of Russian Cultural Center.
Exactly, because I think it's a great initiative that the language has been taught even in other parts of the island, because rural parts of the islands are not usually touched. And it's amazing to see that this is spreading across the island, yes, so that it would give opportunities for Sri Lankan students who are aspiring to go abroad to study, because we see a lot of medical students in Russia, don't
Indeed.
we?
Next step also will be in Kandy.
Right.
Yeah, we will also just open something in Kandy.
And Sri Lanka is an island which depends mostly on tourism. And what can be done in terms of, I understand that building cultural ties and exchanging the beautiful culture both countries have would be one form of attraction to bring in people to both countries. So what could be done in terms of attracting Russians to Sri Lanka?
You have done a lot, but also a lot of things can be done in future. In several interviews, my message was to Russian tourists, not only here, but also when I was speaking to Russian TV, message to Russian tourists, don't go to Europe. Don't go to unfriendly country. I would like to use this possibility to repeat it once again. Please visit friendly countries, including Sri Lanka. Just a week ago, I went to airport, Kutainayake airport, and we, together with our Sri Lankan friends, first of all, Mr. Udayangi Viratunga, former ambassador of Sri Lanka to the Russian Federation, and local authorities, they were kind enough to organize a ceremony to welcome 100,000 Russian tourists who came to Sri Lanka.
That's a huge number.
Yes, huge number. And they are coming with Aeroflot flights twice a week now, and to Mattala also, and to Kutainayake airport. And hopefully we will increase the number of Russians to coming here. And it is just very mutually beneficial process. For our tourists, those who come to Sri Lanka, this island of paradise, and just have a race and beautiful impressions, and also very important for your budget.
Yeah. Exactly, that's important, that's key.
So I will do my utmost to facilitate, to urge Russians to come here, because there is everything. Very good food, warm welcome, and very friendly atmosphere.
Thank you for that. And let's also touch on regional cooperation, Your Excellency, because Russia has been actively involved in regional initiatives, to name a few: the Conference on Interaction and Confidence Building Measures in Asia, and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization as well. So how do you see Sri Lanka's role in these regional forums, and are there many areas of potential collaboration between Russia and Sri Lanka within these frameworks as well?
As I mentioned, we highly appreciate the policy of your government, of your foreign ministry. We have regular contacts with our friends at the foreign ministry. We also cooperate in many issues. And once again, the neutral and balanced policy of your country is very important, and we highly appreciate it. Also, in the frameworks of SICA organization and Shanghai Cooperation Organization, as far as I know, you have a status of dialogue partner in this organization, SCO. SCO has become one of the influential regional organizations with the participation of key countries of the region: Chinese People's Republic, India, Russia, and some other countries. And recently, Iran Islamic Republic has joined the organization, and it is also very attractable. And our main game is to keep prosperity and stability in the Indian Ocean, contrary to the policy of the Western countries. Those who organize such constructions or organizations like AUKUS, which plays very negative role. And we are against the penetration of NATO to the Indian Ocean, and we are very suspicious towards the so-called Squad organization. Let's keep prosperity and stability in the Indian region of Indian Ocean, and we managed to keep very good relations with Sri Lanka, with other countries of the region, which is very important. We are ready for further cooperations. Also in the framework of IORA. You are now acting chairperson of IORA, I mean Sri Lanka.
That's great, and it's not just about building relationship between just two countries, it's about having a team, I'd say. Yeah. And moving on to the future outlook, you already did mention, Your Excellency, about the talks which are currently being held as well. So looking ahead, what are your aspirations and goals for further strengthening the bilateral relationship between Sri Lanka and during your tenure as an ambassador?
To be frank, it's not a very easy job because once again we are a little bit occupied by our special military operation when Russia is fighting, not against Ukraine, I would like to stress once again, it's a war between Russia and the West, which are using Ukraine as a tool. But after our victory, I have no doubt that we will defeat the puppet regime in Ukraine. It's a Western sponsor. We will have more possibility to strengthen, to develop our relations with our friendly countries. If I have some time, I would like to add about something about so-called grain deal. We quitted it recently, and we were ready to participate, to continue our cooperation, but our so-called partners in the West, they just didn't observe their commitment, because Ukraine, they have got everything, having the possibility to export their grain, but we had no possibilities to export our grain and our fertilizers. Now they're just accusing Russia that they, high prices for food, global hunger, they're responsible for that, Western countries, because of the policy of sanctions. They have forgotten the language of diplomacy. Sanctions, threatening, and so on. And you know, in Sri Lanka it's the same, where they're sanctioning your high-ranking officials, which is totally unacceptable. So once again, we are for friendly relations, but please respect our sovereignty, our independence, and don't interfere into our domestic affairs.
And as we have come towards the end of the program as well, Your Excellency, any message to all the Sri Lankans who are tuned in? And what would you like to say?
I would like to say I wish all the best to Sri Lankan people. You know that you are facing a lot of problems right now, but I do believe that you are wise enough with your leadership, with your political parties, to settle down your problems yourselves. And the people of Sri Lanka are very friendly. We enjoy the hospitality, very warm atmosphere, and we are ready to stand together with your people and to be helpful as much as possible.
Final question. Where do you like the most in Sri Lanka? Your favorite place in Sri Lanka?
Me? Gal.
Wow, like the beaches. With that, it's time for us to wind up our interesting segment on Diplomatic Faces. Thank you so much for joining us, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure and honor to have you on our show, Diplomatic Faces. And with that, it's time for us to wind up Diplomatic Faces this evening. Thank you very much for tuning in. Catch you on another episode of Diplomatic Faces.